Hello guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Samui, Hinata and Hanabi. Part 1. Huge shout out to lord-maiku for this story. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Tsunade looked out the window of the Hokage mansion. Her village had prospered in the last 2 years since the end of the Fourth Shinobi War. The child of the prophecy had indeed been Naruto, who had ended the war by killing Madara and bringing Sasuke back. Though Sasuke was being kept in the underground prison, kept from the eyes of the public, Tsunade knew Naruto hoped more than anyone that Sasuke would get out and be normal again. Tsunade didn't think it was possible, as Sasuke had done too much, seen too much, and killed too many. His mind was messed up, but it was up to Naruto and Sakura to accept it. While Sakura preferred to be on her own anymore, Naruto could not be left alone. Since becoming the village hero, everybody begged for his autograph, offered to buy him drinks, and gave him gifts. Though none of this had inflated his ego, he had noticed it. Every once in a while, she would happen to look out the window and see a note he would leave on her window when he needed to talk to someone. At first it had been all about how he had lost his ability to use the Nine Tails chakra mode because he had began to harbor feelings that he tried to deny. But the villagers really had changed from the murderous people they once were to going as far as to make things dedicated to him. Books, food named after him, and even kids' toys that looked like him. Tsunade would always offer the best advice she could, but she could never tell how much it helped. As she stared out the window, she spotted another part that had changed since becoming a hero. Naruto was walking by the Hokage mansion, with Karen tagging close by to him, obviously flirting with him. Since the war, Karen had been sworn to the Leaf Village and became a Leaf Village kunoichi. Being part of the Anbu had trained her to be stealthy, but in the village, she was just as loud-mouthed as she always was. Tsunade counted down to herself, and when she got to 0, she saw exactly what she always saw in this situation. Some other girl would walk with Naruto, and Hinata would be close in tail, feeling like she wanted to join in and flirt with Naruto. She was always too nervous though. Even on the nights Naruto would need to vent, she couldn't tell him about her. She needed to be more flirty on her own, without Naruto going to her first. The door opened, causing Tsunade to turn around quickly. Ino walked in the room and shut the door behind her. "What is it, Ino?" Tsunade asked, slightly annoyed that Ino hadn't knocked. "The Sand siblings have arrived. The Kazekage wishes to speak with you," Ino reported. Tsunade looked at Ino with more annoyance in her face. "Where is Shizune?" she demanded. Ino was a terrible secretary. "You gave her the day off, remember?" Ino asked. As Tsunade thought back, this week had been full of binge drinking while she worked. Wincing slightly at the thought of how unprofessional she was, she made a quick mental note to stop working and drinking at the same time. What was left of her liver would thank her. Oh, yeah. I remember, well, send him in and knock next time," Tsunade said, slightly embarrassed with herself. "Okay." Ino bowed and exited. Tsunade had a moment to think about what was going to be said. The Kazekage had asked for this meeting after hearing about Tsunade passing an act for Naruto, which hadn't been used in a long time. What made him think about getting even slightly involved was beyond her, but she was willing to hear him out. As Gaara walked into the room with Kankuro and Temari, Tsunade took a healthy pull and the bottle of booze she had at her desk. She had to stop doing that, but now was not the time. "Thank you for seeing us," Gaara said as he took a seat. Kankuro and Temari stood behind him. Temari herself looked quite nervous. It was rather funny to see her so nervous about whatever, though she was sure it had to do with Naruto, which was going to probably be the topic of this conversation. "Is this about Naruto? Because, you know, I haven't even talked to him about the Clan Restoration Act 1 passed for him. I'm aware he may not take it, but if he does not want to have multiple wives, then I can trash the act. It's a shame he doesn't know about it. Because the Sand Village hoped to be a part of this. A lot of talking has been done, and we would like to offer Temari under a political marriage," Gaara informed, and Temari blushed. Tsunade looked at her quizzically. She didn't think Gaara would force her to this, but maybe something was being hidden here. "Temari," Tsunade called. Temari snapped out of her trance. She looked at Tsunade and stood at attention. "We should talk in private. If you will excuse us, Lord Kazekage." Gaara nodded and stood. He quickly led Kankuro out of the room. After the brothers left, Tsunade activated a soundproof seal in the room. She took another long swig of her booze and offered Temari the bottle. Temari took it gladly and finished the bottle, which should have lasted Tsunade another 4 hours of work. After she sat the bottle back on the desk, Temari sat back and tried and relax. "So tell me. Did your village force you into this?" Temari blushed and paused for a moment, feeling awkward about this conversation. "They didn't." She breathed deeply, steadying herself. "Just act like it's a mission," she thought to herself. I like him. He has always had such drive and passion. I would like to stay here a while and get to know him. You know, you will have a lot of competition for his attention. If he does like you will have to share him with other women. Does that bother you? Tsunade asked, accepting her short answer. As long as he loves me, I don't care. I know what I'm possibly getting into. That's good. But what happened to Shikamaru? Temari paused a moment. Looking angry at first, she looked at Tsunade. That man is too lazy for me. He hates being troubled by anything and I'd rather have someone who likes life. I see. Okay. As long as Naruto is fine with the craw, then you are in. If not, I'll ask him what he thinks about the political marriage. Tsunade said, standing to shake Temari's hand. Smiling, Tsunade brought down the barrier and went to the door. Gaara was standing patiently and Kankuro was asleep on a waiting chair. Thank you for your time, Lady Tsunade. Temari said as she bowed. You're welcome. I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as possible. We will be in town for a while. May we get some village passes? Gaara asked. Sure. My secretary will get them for you. Tell her I said it was okay. Tsunade smiled and headed back into her office. Going to her desk, she took a paper out and wrote on it quickly. Going to the other side of the room, she took out a messenger bird. Putting the note on its leg, she opened the window. Naruto, she whispered to the bird and it tweeted happily. Flying from her, it took off toward the specific person. Naruto walked around happily, having people talk to him as he passed. Naruto liked the recognition he got from everybody, though it did bother him sometimes. What really bothered him was how the women of the village seemed to change their tone so quickly. Though the one that was tagged to him now had always acted like such. Let's go eat. Karen said, holding onto his arm. Her holding onto him never bothered him. He liked her a bit and he liked the jealous looks some people gave him. He felt bad liking the jealous looks, but it was hard not to. Naruto was just about to answer her when a messenger bird came down and landed on his shoulder. He recognized the bird as being one of the Hokages and took the note off its leg. He looked to the note. Naruto, rooftop. Now. Tsunade. Naruto sighed, wondering what he did not. He usually only got called there as he did something stupid. He looked to Karen, who was trying to seem like she wasn't interested in the note. Even though they weren't dating, Karen got jealous easily. It was very funny to see. I gotta go. Tsunade wants to see me. Naruto said to Karen. Karen puffed her cheeks stubbornly and sighed. We can go eat another time. Promise. Naruto stated, holding his pinky out. Karen smiled and pinky shook. You know, if Tsunade were younger, I'd say you were cheating on me. Naruto smiled and shook his head. We're not dating and I'm not with Tsunade. I call her granny for God's sake. Naruto informed and laughed. Karen blushed and turned her head stubbornly. She didn't like him bringing up them not dating. As Naruto turned to walk away, Hinata quickly hid. She hated not feeling able to approach him. As she stood, knowing he was walking her way, she thought about how weird she felt, following him all the time. She wasn't a little kid anymore. It was creepy now. Well, she thought. I could ask him now. As he walked by her, Hinata stepped out and closed her eyes tightly as she yelled. Naruto. I'd like to ask you. Not now, Hinata. Gotta go to Tswan's, Naruto said deep in thought, cutting Hinata off. Hinata felt crushed, standing completely still. I should have known. The bird was for him. I should have recognized it, Hinata thought to herself, completely crushed. Better luck next time. Karen said, popping up behind her. Hinata screamed in terror from being scared and fell down. Just so you know, though, I'd be okay with you two going out. You're cuter than I am. I would stand no chance. No. I wasn't going to ask him out. Hinata yelled in her, though lying, defense. Please don't act like you weren't following us. I could sense you following us this whole time. Karen whispered. I'm sorry. It's okay. I know you have liked him a long time, but you gotta act. Like you just tried, but try again. Karen encouraged. He has to say yes eventually. Naruto got to the top of the tower to see Tsunade looking over the railing. As she looked over the village, Naruto walked up and stood next to her. You wanted to see me? Yeah. Naruto, what would you think if I told you that I told you, hypothetically, I passed a clan restoration act for you? You would have to tell me what a clan restoration act is. It's exactly what the name implies. Tsunade yelled in aggravation over his continued stupidity. Have you ever heard of polygamy? No. Multiple wives. Naruto said and paused quickly. He thought for a moment before saying anything. Wait. You want me to have multiple wives? I'm asking what you think of the idea. Naruto sat by Tsunade and took the time to think. If you don't like it, there is this, Tsunade stated, handing him a folder. Naruto read the tab, which said Naruto. Political marriage. Political marriage. Naruto asked, shocked. You can look in it if you want. It may ruin the surprise for you at least. Well, it has to be Tamari. Naruto said, surprising Tsunade. Wow. You figured that one out. I only know one girl from another village. It was easy. Naruto smirked. Tsunade groaned in annoyance. I need to think about both, Naruto murmured. She is here. She wants to get to know you better. She knows she likes you. Not love obviously, but likes. I thought she liked Shikamaru. I thought the same thing. But they fell apart some time ago, I guess. You don't need to answer anytime soon, but I hope it's within a month. Remember, you don't have to marry anyone if you say yes, on the spot. I know I don't know, it feels strange to think about. We have talked about stranger things. Stranger to me at least. What do you think about it? I think, from a man's standpoint, it is like a dream come true. I'm surprised any man would think about it, but you aren't just any man. Do you think I should? From a Hokage's standpoint, yes. You would be saving 2 clans. As a person, I can't make that decision. What bonuses would I be getting out of it? Besides several wives? Tsunade asked, surprised he would ask the question. Though I guess that could be a punishment too, if you didn't play your cards right well, you would be part of the Shinobi Council. Besides that, you would receive a clan home. I see, and if I just accepted the political marriage? He further questioned. Tsunade was surprised he was covering all grounds with this questioning. He almost sounded like a Hokage getting insight into a situation from his council. You would strengthen the relationship with the Sand Village. Though we already have a strong relationship with them, the people in the village would take it harshly. I really have to ask that you at least accept that. So basically, I have the choice of pleasing one village, or both. Well, in the eyes of some, yes, Tsunade said awkwardly. Though that is a very straightforward way to look at it. Think of it like this. How many girls do you know that would be crushed if you were suddenly ripped from the market? Well, Naruto mumbled. He instantly went through the list of women who treated him differently, or at least like they were into him at all. How about this? We could say you are accepting the Clan Restoration Act and see who wants in. Accept the political marriage and go on with life for now. Does that sound okay? Just a second, Naruto whispered and closed his eyes. Tsunade had seen this before. He was going to ask the fox's opinion. Naruto opened his eyes and he was in his mind's land. It was a pure white room with spikes of orange shooting up along the background. Turning, Naruto found the fox, looking at him with a look of boredom. The two looked at each other for a moment before either moved. Being uncaged at this point, the fox suddenly swiped at Naruto, who jumped into the air. Naruto changed into his sage mode just in time to catch the fox's paw and get swiped into the ground. As Naruto stood, struggling to hold the fox's paw up above him, he yelled to the fox. Can we skip this right now? I want to talk. No training today. The fox grinned slyly as he raised his paw off of Naruto. Laying down again, he watched as Naruto walked up to him and sit on his paw. What do you think about what Tsunade is asking of me? The fox looked at Naruto for a moment and sighed. I would have thought you would have liked the idea of several wives. You always surprise me. Well? First, this is your mind. Make something in it so I'm not bored all the time. Naruto sighed and closed his eyes. He knew what he would make. He just had to do it right. Close your eyes, Naruto commanded. The fox grunted and did as he was told. When Naruto opened his eyes, the space looked like a giant version of the Leaf Village. The fox opened his eyes when he felt Naruto crawl to the top of the fox's head. Looking around, the fox sighed. Of course you make it look like the village. You really are Hokage material. Everything looks like it does when I see things through your eyes. So what do you think? The fox walked around in the large village that was sized to make it seem like he was the size of a cat. The fox sighed yet again. If the fox didn't owe Naruto so much, he would tell him to figure it out on his own, though Naruto was only asking for advice. After the war, Naruto took his time to try and shoulder all of the fox's hate. Though he later took Itachi's advice to share a burden from when they met a second time during the war. Naruto began letting people into his mind to meet the fox. Anyone close to Naruto met him and the fox eventually began to open up. I think you should consider it. I look at it like, combine your stamina and power with other people's positives and you have some great possible ninja. Though the usual family function for you humans may be changed because of it, I say go for it. I see I'll leave for now so you can get acquainted with your new home. I could resize it sometime so it is correctly sized and you could attack. It could be good training. Okay. Stop by with friends next time. Is that a part of the reason you said go for it? Because you want more people to visit you? That, I want you to be happy and I could have a future container. The fox said and smiled when he said the last one. Naruto laughed at first, then jumped down from the fox's head. Thanks for that. He'll be sure to come by soon. Naruto closed his eyes and exited his mind. Naruto opened his eyes yet again and looked at Tsunade. Tsunade stood next to him and had seen him change to sage mode. She had met the fox before, once while the fox was angry and once when he was calm. "He wanted to fight?" she asked. "Yeah. He stopped and gave me advice. I made him a copy of the village in my mind. He seemed to like it." "That's good, but what did he say?" "Kinda what you said, from the Hokage's standpoint. Though, he put it more like how it would affect him kinda." "I see. But what do you think?" "Well," Naruto started, considering his options. "I will accept the political marriage." "And the craw?" "I accept." Naruto had accepted the Clan Restoration Act, which meant that Tsunade had a lot to do. While Naruto was out getting to know Temari, Tsunade was putting together a list of possible people for Naruto to marry. Though she had put it off at 2 weeks, wanting to give Naruto a little bit of a head start with Temari so the people of the Sand Village would be happy, she decided it was time to start doing things. She had set up an anonymous sign-up sheet at the door outside the mansion and left it there for 7 days. In that amount of time, 10 people had signed the list. At first, they had to look at it in amazement. Then again, he was a hero. Besides that, several other political marriage contracts had come in, some from within the village. The Hyuga clan had been the first to put a couple out, offering both Hinata and Hanabi Hyuga. After that, the Yamanaka clan had been the second, offering up Ino. Other villages had sent contracts also, one coming from the Lightning Village, one from the Mist, and several from the Hidden Stone Village. Tsunade felt cautious over who to pick from the Stone Village, as some of Minato's greatest enemies had been from that village. A knock at the door signaled the start of the meetings. This one was going to probably one of the strangest, as it involved the fate of a 12-year-old girl. "Come in," Tsunade commanded, and in walked the first appointment. The head of the Hyuga clan, Hiashi Hyuga, walked into the office. In tail were Hinata and Hanabi. Hinata looking nervous as ever and Hanabi looking as confident as always. "Thank you, Lady Tsunade," Hiashi murmured as he sat in the chair in front of the desk. Hanabi and Hinata sat to either side of him. "First off, why Hanabi?" "I will answer that," Hanabi called as she stood up. Tsunade looked to Hanabi with a slight look of surprise. While Hanabi was young, she sounded very mature. "Go ahead," Hiashi stated, giving her a nod. Tsunade disliked his position in this. The two girls should have come alone, rather this getting turned into a possible council meeting between the two elders. "Naruto has always been so nice to me. There were times where he would buy me things if I had forgotten my money. I know it was really a matter of right place, right time. Still, he would bring me gifts just because it was a nice thing to do and he wanted to be friendly. Though there was no intentional romance from him, I still felt like I was growing to love him. I've always known my sister has loved Naruto, which is the only reason I held myself back. Now that he is up for the Clan Restoration Act, I can actually tell him how I feel. There was even a time where he took me to get dumplings. While I know it meant nothing, I still view it as my first real date." Tsunade paused for a moment, thinking about Hanabi's statement. She definitely meant it. Tsunade just couldn't decide if it was okay that such a young girl might get married. "I have a problem with your age though. Under the Clan Restoration Act, any girl over the age of 12 is allowed," Hiashi instantly insisted. Tsunade looked back to him, thinking once again that he should not have been there. She is the younger sister and if she is not put in this, she will receive the caged bird seal. The only reason she hasn't got it yet is because I have fought a rule that is sure to be passed, saying that only one person per generation can be without the caged bird seal. The entire Hyuga clan is behind it. And there it was. Though he always seemed mean to his girls, to her at least, he showed his reason right there. He was always looking out for them and trying to protect them in the long run. Hinata never needed the intense training Hanabi received because Hinata would always have the branch of the clan to protect her. This was the easiest way to make sure his daughter would escape a life of possible torture. "I see." Tsunade knew Naruto would have fought it if there had not been a good reason for him to marry her. This was going to be the reason Naruto was going to accept her. Now Hinata Hiashi started, allowing her to stand before he started to speak, but was instantly cut off by Hinata herself. "Father? Could I please speak to Lady Tsunade alone?" Hinata asked awkwardly. Hiashi looked at Hinata for a moment, then sighed. Suddenly standing, he left. Hinata sighed, thinking that when he stood, he would strike her. "Go ahead," Tsunade said after Hiashi left. Hinata took a deep breath and did her best. "I have always loved Naruto in some way since I was young. He always inspired me to try harder, he always looked out for his friends, always stuck up for me, always helped me," Hinata said, blushing so hard her face looked like a tomato. She played with her fingers as she talked, obviously more nervous than Tsunade expected. Tsunade had always known Hinata loved the village hero, even back when he was the bane of the village. "That's enough. I know all of that, Hinata. You can sit. You are one of the people that I was going to tell Naruto he should pursue even if you didn't show up. I'm sure he is going to pick you." That was enough of a promise that she would marry her love, and Hinata passed out. Hanabi looked at the body on the ground for a second and walked over. As she tried to wake her sister, Tsunade took the moment to speak to Hanabi with her father still out of the room. "I will strongly suggest he accept you too. If for nothing else, then for your own sake. You have plenty of time, however, to convince him of your love," Tsunade informed. "Thank you, Lady Hokage." As Hanabi kept trying to revive Hinata, Tsunade couldn't shake the feeling this was going to be a long day. With Naruto and Temari. Naruto jumped through the air, following Temari as close as he could. The two had been dating for 13 days and had started to get along really well instantly. Temari was able to understand Naruto easily because a lot of what happened to him had happened to her own brother. Naruto couldn't understand why she liked him so much, but knew that if he was going to be married to her and several others, he needed to be able to create bonds quickly, as the act would have to be viewed as upheld as soon as possible. Getting to spend time with Temari was nice though. She was willing to eat ramen constantly, just as he liked. Just yesterday, she home-cooked him ramen, though she made something else for herself. She had even gotten him to eat vegetables, though it had resulted in some very close contact, which made them both uneasy at first. Now though, they felt at ease around each other. Even though it was just yesterday, they felt closer to each other from that one experience. Today, they were going to get something to eat at the Ikinku-Q, the place Choji loved to eat at, and Temari said she had a surprise for Naruto. Naruto didn't pry, as he wanted the surprise to remain a surprise. The two landed on the ground in front of the BBQ place and walked inside. A waitress almost instantly took them to a seat and got them their drinks and took their order. As they waited for them to start the small grill they could cook their own food on and bring the meat, they took the time to talk. "So, do you think you are ready for the surprise?" Temari asked, looking at him happily. "Yeah. I'm ready for anything," Naruto shouted excitedly. Temari smiled happily, with a small piece of a sneaky look on her face. "We will just have to wait and see about that." "Just wait and see." The waitress brought them their food and the two began to speak again. Though they kept an eye on their food, the two were excited to talk. "So why did you want to be part of a political marriage?" Naruto asked. "If it would have been anyone else I think I would have stayed away from the idea, but you have always been nice to people when people have been mean to you. You are able to overcome great odds when everyone tells you to give up and it's hopeless. You have always been willing to help anyone who wants or needs help. You have helped my brother so many times, and when I heard you were becoming part of the CRA, I knew I had my chance to at least get to know you, rather than having no chance at all due to me hardly being around and all the other attractive women here." Temari had stopped speaking and felt a hand on hers. Looking down, Naruto had taken her hand in his, holding it tightly. Smiling, she looked up to Naruto. "Why did you accept the political marriage?" Temari finally asked. Naruto twitched a bit and rubbed his hand through his hair. "Well, at first it was to strengthen our village's bonds. Then well, we started hanging out. At first, it was getting to know you, but I really like you now. I mean it's not love yet, but I think it will come. I'm glad I accepted the marriage." Temari smiled and held his hand for a moment longer. They would have to eat their food before it burnt. In Tsunade's office. "So why did you two come together?" Tsunade asked the two kunoichi who sat before her. Both Ino and Karen had walked into her office at the same time. Well, it didn't surprise Tsunade that they both had signed up to be part of this. She didn't expect the two to come busting into her office like they usually did, fighting with each other as they came in. "Well, I had the first appointment," Karen instantly said. "And I didn't want her getting the appointment ahead of me. Asuma told me before he died never to let my rival win, and since Sakura has barely been seen by anybody, Karen took up the role of being my rival." Ino inserted. Tsunade sighed, but decided the day would go faster, seeing she would have a lot of the suspected list taken care of right away. Though there was a lot more to do, she felt it would be better in the long run. "Find another joint appointment, so one at a time please. Explain why you want to be with Naruto." "Go ahead," Ino said, sounding too sure of herself. "Fine. Lady Tsunade, I'm sure you have seen Naruto and I walking around the village. He always smiles when we are together. He has saved my life, brought me here, and he insisted I become a Leaf Village ninja. My life, for the past 2 years, is all thanks to him. I'd be insane if I didn't love him even a little." "Alright, and Ino? I always used to be a Sasuke fangirl. I'm aware of what that did to my friendships with other people and what it did to my life as a whole. Though Naruto never treated me differently for the way I acted. Hell, he even ran errands for me if I asked. We went out before also. When he brought Sasuke back, I stayed away from Sasuke because I had made up my mind. Naruto was definitely better for me anyway. And you don't mind sharing?" Well, not really. Except with her. Karen yelled, pointing to Ino. Ino instantly stood up, getting in Karen's face. Like you're going to get a chance. Ino yelled. You think you will? He will be too busy with me. Says you. This is getting annoying. I should just recommend one or the other, Tsunade thought to herself. Unable to control her mind, she remembered all the trouble Naruto had given her over the years. Calling her granny in front of anybody, no matter how important the person was. Giving her more gray hairs than nature could in 10 years. He was a constant pain in her side through the years. Though he was tied with troubles he had given her with times he had saved her. Maybe a little payback would be okay. Okay. Thank you. I will definitely put you both down as important people to consider. Tsunade interrupted them. Not wanting this meeting to come to a fist fight, she was quick to end it. Standing, she quickly moved and though laughing, shoved them out the door as fast as possible. Alright, maybe the worst is over. But Naruto and Temari had finished eating and got their check. As they walked out, Temari took Naruto's hand in hers. The two smiled, Temari realizing that if she wanted to live happily, she needed to try her hardest, and Naruto realized having someone like Temari around was changing his life for the better. Gotta close your eyes till we get to the secret place. Temari whispered into his ear. Oh. Okay. Naruto said excitedly and closed his eyes tightly. Temari smiled happily as she led her husband-to-be through the village. There were quite a few people who looked at the two, several smiling at the couple walking along. As they walked along, Temari reached her destination. The Konoha hot springs. You can open your eyes. Temari whispered. Naruto opened them and looked at where they were. Blushing instantly, he looked at Temari, who smiled brightly at him. She stood on her tiptoes and kissed him on the lips. Here? He stammered. Is it okay? Or would you rather go some other place? She asked instantly. Here is fine, there is a divider, right? Not in the couple's rooms. Oh. Naruto whispered, blushing more. Can we go in? Yeah. Temari said, smiling brightly. Walking inside, the two went to the front desk and Temari was the one who spoke as Naruto seemed very nervous. Temari, though, seemed very sure of herself. We would like a couple's room. Are you Temari? I've heard about you. Congratulations on getting engaged to the village's hero. You gotta treat him well. The girl at the front desk said after Temari ordered. The desk girl grabbed the key to one of the rooms after she finished speaking. Of course. He has always been good to me. So I have to be good to him. The desk girl took them to a back room and unlocked it. Filling the center tub with hot water, she started to coals and poured water on them, steaming up the room instantly. She turned back toward them when she was done and smiled. Changing rooms are on either side of the room. We ask that you keep things clean in the changing rooms and dirty out here, she said, implying the obvious. Temari and Naruto looked at each other. But Tsunade. Tsunade was almost done with the meetups. She had just met with Samui from Kumo. Tsunade didn't trust her. She was a cold person who had the body Tsunade wished she had when she was 20. She seemed to only respect Naruto under the means he was powerful. Sadly, because it was the only political marriage contract from Kumo, she reluctantly accepted it. Iwa had sent a couple people for Naruto, saying he was welcome to dismiss any of them. Kuritsuchi was the only one she had agreed to, as the other ones were openly against the Leaf Village, to her face. Kuritsuchi probably disliked the village and would probably butt heads with some of the other girls, but she was more manageable. That, and if they had the third Tsuchikage's grandchild, they could probably use her as a ransom if she became too much to deal with. At the end of the list was the person offered from the Mist Village. Ren Yoshida was her name, and she was a hunter nin before accepting to be an offering for the political marriage. Besides being part of the Anbu for her village, she did missions as one of the 7 swordsmen of the Mist. While Tsunade doubted they would send her with her sword, maybe it would show the Mist Village's dedication to the Leaf to entrust them with one of the swordsmen. Tsunade sat back, waiting for Ren to arrive. After this, she would have to wait 2 hours for Naruto to arrive and see who she recommended. Maybe the waiting would be a good time for a nap, it had been a long day. Lying her head down on the desk, she closed her eyes and started to drift off to sleep. Shizune was back today and would wake her when the next person came. Tsunade had barely felt sleep start to take her when the door opened and Tsunade woke up with a start. At the door was Shizune. Tsunade sat up slowly and rubbed her eyes. Grabbing the bottle on her desk, she tried to take a drink but remembered too late that the bottle was empty. Sighing, she set the bottle down. You have another person here for your interview. Shizune said, throwing another bottle to Shizune. Tsunade's jaw dropped in shock. Shizune had never supported her drinking while working routine. Maybe she was doing a good deed and deserved something for it. She wasn't sure. Thanks, send her in. Right. Tsunade had just taken a big gulp of her new drink and the last appointment walked in. Ren was 5'2" and thin, with pale and lovely skin. Tsunade liked the look of her. She had smaller breasts than Tsunade, which was completely unrelated to her liking Ren. The girl looked shy, but was obviously hiding an interior strength. No one who was shy and timid could survive as a hunter nin. "Hello, Lady Hokage. I'm pleased to meet you," Ren whispered. Tsunade smiled and waved her to a seat in front of the desk that quite a few girls had sat in that day. Ren sat down and looked around the room. "Before we start, I have a question. What are the plans with your swords?" Ren looked at Tsunade for a moment with a look of surprise and rubbed her head, smiling. "Finally. Those things. They will be here with me if my political marriage contract is accepted. Though, as was in the stipulation, I may have to go back to the village once in a while. I still have missions that I need to be a part of with the swordsman. Is that okay?" In the past this would have been a problem. But she didn't see it as a problem considering Konoha and Kiri were on very friendly terms already. What secrets could there be that she would bring back to the Mist Village? "That's absolutely fine. I expect some of the other out-of-village girls to visit home also. There is no problem." Ren seemed relieved about that and seemed to relax a bit. "Thank you. Now about Naruto, why do you think you would be a good wife for him?" "Well, I'm new to this whole relationship thing, but back in the war, he saved my life. I'm sure I was just another face to him, but it was obviously a big deal to me. When my village heard about the Clan Restoration Act being passed for him, I decided what better way to thank him than to giving my life to helping him rebuild his clan." "I see." Tsunade liked the answer. It was honest, like a lot of the reasons so far, and it showed that she did like Naruto. "Also, I can summon tigers, and my elements are lightning and water," Ren quickly added. Tsunade internally sighed. That had nothing to do with her relationship with Naruto, but whatever. "Alright. We will have plenty of time to become good friends, but for right now, I think that will be all. We will be accepting your marriage contract, so gather whatever things you want from your village and be ready to move into the new clan house." "Thank you, Lady Hokage. I look forward to my new life." Ren stood up and left, leaving Tsunade with a feeling that Ren was not going to have any problem fitting in with Naruto. She did feel bad about all the internal attention struggles that were going to take place, but it was something he would have to learn to deal with. At the hot springs room. Naruto walked from the changing room nervously and looked to the changing room that Temari was in. At some point within the next hour, he was probably going to see her naked. While the thought did excite him, he was nervous. For the first time, he was actually thinking about how he looked. Before he had time to run back in the changing room and make sure he had done everything possible to look good, the door to the changing room opened. Temari had her hair down, which was something Naruto had never seen. He wasn't sure, but he would. Temari, who was completely naked under the white towel she wore, stepped out of the room. Naruto gulped as she walked to the tub in the center of the room and getting in with her towel on. Naruto was a little crushed she didn't drop the towel, but internally scolded himself for hoping to see her naked. Trying to get his mind off of it, he poured more water so the room would steam up. He was successful in making the room steam up a lot, so much to the point that it became hard to see. Fumbling his way around, he made it to the hot spring water tub in the center of the room and got in with Temari. "This feels good," Temari sighed, moving to cuddle up with Naruto. Naruto wrapped his arm around her shoulders and sat back. Though it was awkward, he tried to relax. "Time to get rid of this." Temari took the towel off and tossed it behind her. Naruto tensed and knew that relaxing was out of the question now. Temari moved closer to Naruto once again and laid her head on his shoulder. It was quiet for a moment and Naruto could feel himself blushing. "Do you want me to put my towel back on?" Temari asked after a minute. Naruto shook his head but decided to vocalize his answer. "No, I actually hoped you would." Temari put a finger to his lips, understanding his nervousness in the situation. She knew what he was trying to say and was happy he was trying to vocalize his hope that she would have taken the towel off. It made her feel attractive. "Would you take your towel off?" she asked. "Yeah. Sorry if I was bad," Naruto mumbled and ran his hands through his hair. "Sorry if I was, but you have to practice so the other wives you will have don't complain, but I never will." "Thanks Temari, but we're going to be in this together." "Do you mean they are my wives too?" she said, sounding falsely excited. Naruto laughed at the idea. "You know what I meant." Naruto laughed. "Do we split the wives 50-50 at night?" "You're awful." Naruto smirked. The both of them laughed in the tub, feeling less awkward together than ever before. At the Hokage mansion, hours later. Naruto came up the steps to the roof of Hokage mansion and saw Tsunade standing at the top. She looked over her shoulder to him and smiled. Naruto walked over before saying anything. "How did today go?" Naruto asked, leaning over the rail to look over the village. He heard Tsunade sigh. "It was okay. Hinata showed up with her father and Hanabi. Why was Hanabi there? Naruto asked. When Tsunade didn't answer, he looked shocked. The Hyuga clan is trying to pass a clan law that only one person in a generation may go without the caged bird seal. Hanabi would receive it if she doesn't marry you. That, and she seems rather infatuated with you. I was surprised by her statements. I strongly recommend both of them. Okay, why not, but Hinata was there. She wants in this too. She has loved you for a long time. I know that is falling on deaf ears, but talk to her about it. Okay, who else? Ino and Karen came at the same time. I recommend you accept them both. Ino actually has an in-village political marriage contract to back her. You don't have to accept her if you don't want though. I might as well. Karen and her are best friends, and I would hate for their relationship to be strained because I didn't accept one of them. Alright then. Samui from Kumo came. She seems cold, but we have a decent relationship with her village and you should accept the political marriage to keep it that way. Right, I remember her. She made her friend stop beating me up when I said they could beat me in place of Sasuke, and I saved her butt when she was trapped in that jar thing Madara had. Yeah. Then there was Kuretsuchi. She seems less hateful of our village than the others from her village did. You should accept her too, but watch yourself around her. I know the other girls will watch your back, but you should make sure she feels welcome. Okay, and is there another? Yeah, there was Ren Yoshida. She is a swordsman of the mist. She says you saved her during the war. Maybe I will remember her when I see her. Maybe. She said she decided you could have her as a wife, saying you saved her. And I should marry her too, right? Yup. Okay, so then that's 8. If you were anybody else, that would be a problem. You have the stamina for it though. Tsunade said, sounding uninterested. So how was the date with Temari? When Naruto didn't answer, she glanced at him. He was blushing and trying to look away from her. She sighed and shook her head. She was silent for a moment before she started laughing. So Temari has you practicing? I don't know if I should count that as helping or staking her claims. Well, I'll start meeting up with them. I recommend taking Hinata out first. You two have a lot to talk about. Okay, tomorrow. Hinata waited patiently at the gates of the Hyuga compound, looking around for her date. She was nervous enough that she was blushing and feeling like she would pass out, yet she held strong from the excitement that she was about to go on a date with Naruto. It was a dream she had for years, and it was finally being realized. Her father stood by her, wishing to speak with him before they left. Down the street, Naruto was walking along. Though he was tired from having to get up to meet Hiashi's insane wish of him getting there around 8 in the morning, Naruto decided to go to sleep early so he could make the clan head happy. As he got closer, he saw them look to him. Hiashi didn't change his expression, but Hinata seemed to almost faint, which she did do a lot. Namikaze. Good to see you, Hiashi said, as aggravated as ever. Hiashi noticed Naruto instantly looked nervous and decided to try smiling to make things less awkward. To Naruto, the smile looked villainous. Like he planned some evil against him. Seeing the shocked and scared look on Naruto's face, he erased the smile from his face, looking almost embarrassed he had tried. Naruto looked at Hinata, and she looked at him. The instant their eyes met, she quickly looked away, blushing heavily. She was now absolutely unsure she was ready for this date. She had hoped she would have been strong enough for this, however, she was not. Oh, I want her back before 9. Just because you two will be married does not mean you are. Hiashi demanded. Naruto nodded quickly, causing Hiashi to sigh. Naruto, I was trying to instigate you to argue with me. There will be times when we will argue, as I will be your father-in-law, and someday if you become Hokage, I will be part of your council. Oh okay, Naruto said, slightly weary as Hiashi held his hand out and a house helper who had been hiding handed him a duffel bag. Keep her tonight. I hate the idea of her ever sleeping in a bed with anyone but herself because I am her father, but I realize it will happen. Handing the duffel bag to Naruto, Hinata stared at the bag in disbelief. Feeling faint, she shook her head quickly and leaned against a wall for support. Naruto himself couldn't grasp the situation. Are you serious? Naruto asked in disbelief. I am. Now, go, Hiashi said. When they stood around still with dumbfounded looks on their faces, Hiashi got annoyed. Go. The two took off in fright and ran together. Though they didn't go very far, the two made it out of sight of Hinata's seemingly crazy father. As they stopped, the two looked at each other. Hinata quickly looked away, blushing. Naruto smiled his usual fox grin as they walked. Well, we have all day. What do you want to do? Naruto asked, breaking the silence. Well, we could get ramen, Hinata murmured. She internally kicked herself, hoping that now that they were going to go out and were already engaged, she would be able to talk to him without having any more problems. No such luck. You want to? The excitement in Naruto's voice was so obvious, people in the village looked over to see what the hero was so excited about. Hinata did not pick up the excitement because she was too busy being nervous. If you want. Sure. I always want ramen if I can get it. Naruto wrapped his arm around Hinata out of friendship for being such a good friend and wanting to lead her to the ramen shop. Hinata took in another way, saying they had a bag with her things in it so she could stay the night at his house. Plus, they were engaged. Hinata felt her legs starting to weaken and felt as though she were going to pass out. Feeling sick about always doing this and wanting to break the cliché of her life, she moved away from Naruto and needed to change the subject so he wouldn't ask why she moved. The best thing she could come up with made her kick herself again after she said it. Why don't we drop my stuff off at your place? Wanting to kick herself, she didn't see Naruto's expression change to shock. Hinata was too busy fidgeting to notice Naruto had started to sweat, remembering he had never bothered to clean his place. If he would have known Hinata would be staying the night, he would have made an honest attempt to clean up. Quickly making a hand seal, he created 4 shadow clones, and the group dashed off as fast as they could. Hinata snapped out of her thoughts when she saw Naruto run away, but then saw there were 4 and the real one was standing by her still. Let's take our time, okay? Hinata nodded in slight confusion, but went along with him anyway. In the Hokage's office. Tsunade was relaxing in her office when she heard the noise of 2 people rushing up the stairs to her office, fighting with each other the whole way up. The only reason she knew what it sounded like is because 2 of the village's kunoichi frequently entered her office without knocking, fighting the whole way to her office. Tsunade had time to take a large drink from her bottle and make her desk look nice before the rivals would burst into the room. Screaming and smacking at each other, Karen and Ino entered the office and rushed the desk. Tsunade sat with perfect posture and a perfect amount of restraint from yelling at them. Sooner or later, they would ask Tsunade who was right. Both were usually wrong. Lady Hokage, I would like to see the list of people Naruto accepted because I wish to congratulate them. Ino yelled. Liar. Most honorable Lady Hokage, I would like to see the list so I may congratulate my soon-to-be new rivals. Karen yelled at Ino, then calmly said to Tsunade. Sometimes, the two really came up with weird things. Tsunade was supposed to give them a list of the other girls, just to make sure they could meet them and attempt to get off on the right foot. Tsunade decided to just have some fun with them before handing out a part of their future to them. Sorry girls, but you have to be a part of the planned wives in order to actually see the lists before the wedding. Tsunade sighed. Though they were on the list, she wanted to see how mad they would get if they thought they had been rejected. That bastard. Karen yelled. I mean, I can understand why he wouldn't pick Ino, but me? I have been close to him ever since the end of the war. I helped him get over his war-created depression. You can understand why he wouldn't pick me? I helped him deal with his sadness over the imprisonment of his best friend. Ino yelled back at her friend. Girls. Tsunade said, trying to get their attention. Well, I would at least be a better lover in bed. Karen yelled back. I would eat ramen every day for him. Ino hollered. I would do that and wear orange for him. I would do all that and give him more kids than you ever could. I would give him 20 kids. I would rebuild his clan by myself. Girls. Tsunade yelled. Karen and Ino instantly jumped in shock, seeing Tsunade standing now, holding 2 scrolls for them. The two blushed and took them without meeting Tsunade's glare. Opening them, the two looked at the list of girls and saw their names were on it. Instantly screaming with happiness and hugging each other, Tsunade sighed and sat down. Amidst their happiness, they heard a soft knocking at the door. Tsunade glared at the two, wishing they would knock, and called to the person to enter. As the door opened, the 3 in the room saw it was Temari. Tsunade smiled and waved her to come in. She looked at the 3 with slight confusion and entered the room. Walking to the desk, past Ino and Karen, she looked at Tsunade. You asked for me to come here? Yeah. I wanted to give you this. It's a list of the other girls who are also going to be wives of Naruto. Saying you were the first to actually be accepted, I wanted to give yours first, out of respect. These 2 decided to come first, though. Temari looked at the 2 and smiled at them. Karen and Ino looked suspiciously at Temari and looked back at each other, giving Temari a feeling of concern for her safety. The 2 began to whisper with each other, seemed to argue in whispers, and finally went back to normal whispers. The 2 suddenly faced her, smiling, and spoke. Good news. We have decided we don't mind sharing Naruto with you. Karen said. Considering I had first dibs on Naruto, I'm not too concerned with that. Be what? Ino yelled. You didn't hear what Tsunade just said. I was the first person accepted. Even right now, I think he is on a date with Hinata. Temari stated. She didn't want to start it off with them thinking she was a bis, but they started it. Karen shook off the shock and went on. Well, I hope you accept us in this group then, as it will make things easier, but I wanted to ask if you would join Ino and I on a mission to meet whoever is on this list, as long as they are in the village. Sure. Got nothing else to do, and it would give us a chance to get to know each other. Maybe we should just form a group and hang out. Sounds like a good idea. Karen said and opened the scroll. Let's see, there is you Hinata no wait Hanabi. Ino and Karen quickly looked at Tsunade, who simply stared at them. Temari looked confused between them and finally had to ask what was wrong. "Are you guys not like her or something?" Temari asked. Ino and Karen quickly turned to her and realized she didn't know a lot of people in the village. She is 12. She is Hinata's younger sister. Ino yelled. Temari instantly looked at Tsunade like she was a sick person. Tsunade began to laugh at the looks she was getting. The Ashi demanded she be part of it to escape a new law. "I assure you that I didn't want her in it, and Ashi fought to get her in it. She actually seems to have a bit of a crush on Naruto, and I doubt he is going to do anything with her sexually until she is older," Tsunade explained. The three had nothing to add to the complaint, saying the argument made sense and saying they would be married to Naruto as well, they could keep an eye on him. "Alright, let's go," Ino said happily. She didn't think at first being engaged to Naruto would have made her this happy, but she felt bubbly now and didn't want to lose the feeling. Yeah, Karen said nonchalantly, trying to hide her own excitement. As the duo turned to leave, Temari followed. Waving over her back to the Hokage, Tsunade smiled. Even though she was sure this was going to cause problems, she didn't care. They were happy. At Naruto's apartment. The clones had finally finished cleaning the apartment to the best of their ability by the time Naruto and Hinata arrived at the apartment. Though it was still dusty and it smelt of bad food, Hinata didn't seem to care. She went into the apartment nervously and sat at a chair. As she looked around, Naruto took the vibe she was radiating as shock the place sucked. "I'm sorry it's not the dream apartment, but it leave me with a lot of extra money I have been saving up since my first mission. I do plan on having a house by the time we're married, but this is what I have right now." "That's not it, I mean, it does smell, and it is dusty, but it is your home. I never thought that I would be here or be spending the night." Naruto understood what it was she was feeling, but he didn't feel like he had been around her enough to really recognize it. He took in the moment and decided to move on. "So, you want the bed tonight?" "No. I couldn't. It's your bed." But Naruto murmured, looking around the room. It was this, a bathroom and a bedroom. There was no couch. The floor was not comfy and it got really cold at night. "I can sleep on the floor, there isn't any other place to sleep really, and the floor gets cold. Your dad would kill me if I brought you home in anything but perfect condition." Naruto Hinata whispered, feeling color brighten up her face as she had the obvious idea. She felt really scared to say it, but it had to be said. "We will be married, we could share that bed." Naruto felt like an idiot for not thinking of it first and making her say something she was obviously too nervous to say without feeling weird. Slapping his forehead, he laughed. Naruto. Of course. We should sleep together," Naruto said as he grinned. "We could keep each other warm." Hinata's face reddened again. The way he said it made her think perverted thoughts. Though she didn't have a vast knowledge of sex, she knew enough about it from overhearing people talking, seeing accidental pictures, and her good old imagination. Though she hated thinking of things like that at such bad times, being around Naruto brought out the worst of her in the best of ways. Hinata fought to keep her mind off of it, but it made her feel like she would pass out. Not wanting to pass out after only 10 minutes of being in his home, she quickly pushed the thoughts out of her mind. Naruto looked at her with a confused look on his face and got close to her face, and she felt his breath on her cheeks, making her feel like she would pass out again. "Everything alright, Hina?" "Oh, God," she thought, he just used a pet name for me. I think I am going to pass out. The thoughts earlier, him being too close now, and pet names. I'm gonna. As she was about to pass out, Naruto quickly remembered why they were there. "Oh, yeah. Your stuff." Naruto yelled and quickly rushed her things into his room, throwing them on the bed. Coming back out, Hinata had her hand on her chest and was taking deep breaths. Internally, she was thinking of how long, fun, and almost magical this day was going to be. But the future wives. Ino and Karen walked ahead of Temari by a few paces. Not because they were trying to keep her out, but because she wanted to think to herself. She liked them, that wasn't the problem. They seemed to argue a lot, and that worried her a lot. "Everything alright back there?" Karen called. Temari snapped out of her thoughts and looked up to see Karen and Ino looking at her with confused looks on their faces. Temari blushed in embarrassment and nodded. "Yeah, just thinking," Temari stated. "What about?" Karen asked. "Tell us," Ino insisted in a happy way. "Well, I'm worried. You two seem to fight a lot. I just don't want it to cause problems later, that's what I'm worried about," Temari said, feeling like she may have just insulted them. The two began laughing before she could say anything else. Temari looked confused and the two put their arms around her for support. "You don't have to worry about that. We're basically sisters, we argue all the time because it's just what we do. We don't do it because we want to be mean or anything. We do it because we love each other." We both have laughs about it later and we are aware we are a bit silly in our arguments. Karen reassured. Temari still seemed a little tense. Hang out with us for a while and you will understand. Ino included. Temari nodded and continued on. So who are we getting first? Temari asked. Karen and Ino grabbed their scrolls and looked through. Each seemed to find their own choice and instantly called out a name. Hanabi. Ino yelled. Ren. Karen yelled. The two girls looked at each other and Temari could tell the sparks were going to fly as the two were about to clash. Ren is from another village and it would be a good welcome. The scroll says she may be in the village. It's not for sure. If we get Hanabi now, we can set ground rules. She is young and needs to know it. What do you think? The both of them asked, quickly turning toward Temari. Temari jumped slightly in surprise and looked away for a moment. Well, maybe we should go get Hanabi first, saying we know she is in the village, Temari answered. Ino jumped with joy as Karen lowered her head and sighed. You win this time, Ino. Karen said laughing. Ino smiled and nodded. The two laughed and hugged. Temari could hardly believe it. Then again, until not long ago, Temari never had any loving people in her life. Gaara had just started to really show that he cared and Kankuro had always been withdrawn. Maybe this marriage thing would give her what she missed in life. They could be her sisters through marriage, she would just have to try to get along with them for now until she got closer to them. Temari looked sad. Ino shouted. Temari looked up to see Ino pointing at her. Karen looked over and the two rushed her. What's wrong? Karen asked as they got to her. It's nice to see that you guys get along so well. I never had that kind of relationship with anyone. Temari said. After saying it, she kicked herself. It sounded weak and she hated sounding weak. You're going to have sisters soon. We will all eventually be close. Ino smiled. Wait, we're going to be sisters? I wondered if it was going to be that or wives. I really didn't want to be married to you. Karen said and stuck her tongue out. Don't worry, Ino said, reaching up and pinching Karen's tongue hard. I feel the same way. Temari smiled at the two messing around again and wanted to join in. She knew she would just make it awkward or feel awkward, so she decided to wait. But Naruto and Hinata. Naruto and Hinata were out of his apartment and were on their way to eat. As they walked through the village, Hinata kept getting the feeling they were being watched. Though she looked around, she could never find anyone looking directly at them, nor could she see anyone on the rooftops. As she continued to get the feeling of being watched, she decided to use her Byakugan to look for anyone who could have been watching them. Atop one of the buildings to her left, there was someone who was following them. Naruto, there is someone following us, she murmured. Naruto looked at her and smiled. It's okay, Hinata. It's just go. As soon as Naruto finished saying his name, the man himself appeared in front of them in a kneeling position. It had freaked Hinata out how fast he had moved, yet it didn't seem to bother Naruto at all, who seemed happy to see him. Chiko looked up from his respectful kneeling position and stared at Naruto. You called, Naruto? He asked. No. You were just scaring Hinata. I know you feel like you have to follow me, but at least put a little more distance between us. Naruto answered. Chiko thought for a moment and nodded. If it would please you. After Naruto brought Sasuke back to the village, the others from Sasuke's group had went their separate ways, all moving on with their lives. While Sujetsu went back to the Mist Village to realize his dream of bringing the seven swordsmen back, Chiko had never had dreams. He always felt like he was a danger to everyone around him, and Sasuke was the only one who used to be able to control him. After Naruto had beaten Sasuke, Chiko decided that Naruto was more fit for his controller and went with Naruto to the Leaf Village. Though Chiko's curse marks were sealed, they were still able to act up if Chiko got angry enough. Thank you, Chiko. As Chiko disappeared, Naruto turned to Hinata and smiled. Is that better? Yes, thank you. I'm sorry I didn't mention it before when I went out with Temari a couple days ago, she didn't mind Chiko at all. I guess I really should introduce him to all of you first, huh? It did bother Hinata that Naruto would bring up one of the other girls while they were out, but she knew there was no helping it. Soon, Naruto would be married to 8 women and there was nothing she could do but be happy she was one of them. The fact that almost everyone in the marriage was someone she knew and the ones she did know all knew about her long-time crush on Naruto. It's funny, actually, Naruto continued, at first, Temari actually thought that Chiko was you. She yelled out the window for Yao to join us, but when Chiko appeared, she almost fell. It made Hinata very happy to know that Temari had been willing to let her join them and sad that she hadn't been around to actually do so. Hinata didn't know a lot about Temari, but it did seem like Temari was willing to get along with her. So what do you want to do after we eat? Hinata asked, looking back at the ground. Well, we could shop. Hinata laughed to herself. Naruto had a very limited amount of knowledge on what women liked and it showed. Maybe it would be easier to do something he knew and liked. We could spar. That's a great idea, Hinata. But do you want to do that? Sure. It's easier than having to think of anything else. Alright. Then let's get some food so we have energy to train. The two went on their way and made it to Naruto's favorite ramen place quickly. Ichiraku Ramen was busy at the moment, yet the moment that someone saw Naruto approach, they quickly stood. "Future Hokage. Take my seat," he said excitedly. Naruto looked surprised at first and shook his head. "I can wait. You go ahead and finish your food. Besides, I have a date. One spot wouldn't be enough." "Alright," the man said and went back to eating, though he seemed to be rushing now. It wasn't long before the two had seats and were seated to eat. They ordered and began to talk as they ate. At the Hika compound. 3 of Naruto's future wives waited outside the large gate for the 4th addition to their group. When they walked up, they had been greeted instantly by somebody. After Karen told them why they were there, the woman on the other side of the gate seemed to know who they were almost instantly. "Of course, I'll go get Hanabi," the woman said, who seemed to know what they wanted. The woman had left, and that left them at their current state of waiting outside of the Hika home. "What exactly are we going to do once she gets out here?" Temari asked, looking around. "We are going to chat for a bit, tell her we are going to watch her back, and ask if she would like to join our hangout group," Karen explained. "I find it so weird she is in this, almost like Naruto is being a legalized pedophile," Ino stated. "You heard Lady Tsunade. There is a good reason she is in this. Tsunade wouldn't have allowed Naruto to accept Hanabi if there wasn't a good reason," Temari said. "I know, but I still feel weird about it," Ino responded. "Think about it like this, I mean she may be a wife, but she will kinda be like a little sister. I know you have always wanted one, Ino. Have you, Temari?" Karen asked. "Actually, yeah. My brothers used to be really weird. They are not weird now, but I always used to wish one of them had been a sister I could have actually bonded with," Temari explained. As the women talked, they failed to notice Hanabi approaching the gate. She couldn't hear the star of their conversation, but she did hear the sister part. Hanabi hadn't expected to hear them talking about that sort of thing. "Hey, guys," Hanabi said as she approached the gate. She was happy to have overheard the conversation they had, but she didn't want to show it. She didn't want to seem like an eavesdropper. "Hi Hanabi," the 3 said, turning to her instantly. Hanabi exited the gate and closed it behind her. "What are you guys up to?" Hanabi asked, looking at the 3. She had seen Ino with Hinata a few times. Karen was someone who had become quite popular in the village ever since she had joined them, saying she was originally part of Orochimaru's group. Temari was a little less known to Hanabi. She knew she was part of the political group between the Sand Village and the Leaf, but beyond that, she was a mystery. Though she should have, Hanabi didn't feel nervous about being around older people. Hanabi was always confident and hardly ever nervous. She was strong, so she hardly ever felt scared. "We're getting some of the girls together who will be marrying Naruto, so we can all get to know each other. You want to join us?" Ino asked. Hanabi had nothing better to do, so she shrugged and nodded. "Sure. Why not?" Hanabi answered. "Real quick, before we go, I wanted to talk to you about something," Karen said and waved Hanabi to sit on a nearby bench. Ino went with, and Temari leaned up against the wall, not wanting to butt into something she had no opinion about. To Temari, Hanabi was young. Yet she also seemed strong, smart, and very mature for her age. She almost seemed like her mind was older than her body. Either way, it didn't bother her that Hanabi was going to be one of Naruto's wives. There were some good reasons why she was going to be, and that was that. "What's up?" Hanabi asked, looking at Ino and Karen as they sat to either side of her. "Well, I know you are going to be a wife to Naruto, along with us," Karen said, sounding a little too happy about the fact, "but I just wanted to make sure you knew that we have your back in this. But beyond that, we want you to know that if you don't feel comfortable with anything, you can tell us. If Naruto wants you to do something you don't want to, then don't do. So you guys think I'm too young to make decisions on my own?" Hanabi said, sighing. "Am I right? Well, you are 12 and a half, and we don't think it would be appropriate for someone your age to be partaking in adult things. I don't mean to insult you, but it's just you are young," Ino said. Hanabi didn't seem to be losing her cool, which seemed to make Karen and Ino waver in their determination. "I know where you are coming from, but at the same time, I am a ninja. I can go out on missions that could potentially kill me, so why can't I enjoy things I may never otherwise be able to experience?" Hanabi asked. Karen and Ino both looked away from her for a moment. They both seemed to be questioning why they even started this. Hanabi obviously was able to calmly talk her way around a situation. "Can we just drop this and see if other people are around?" Temari asked. "Thank you, Temari," Hanabi said, stood up and walked over by her. Ino and Karen looked at each other, sighed while nodding, and stood up. At the training field. After Naruto and Hinata finished eating, they had made their way to the training ground. The nice stroll seemed to help them digest their food, making Naruto feel more comfortable than he did after eating 6 bowls of ramen. Hinata didn't eat much and was just happy to be walking next to Naruto. Ahead of them, the training field was coming into view quickly. So spar until we are tired. Until I am tired, I'm sure I will be tired long before you are. Alright. Until you are tired. The two got to either side of the training ground. As the two stared at each other in preparation for a fight, they got into their battle stances. Hinata rushed at Naruto, but Naruto had a sudden thought. He didn't want to be the kind of person who beat his wives. Even if it was sparing, he didn't want to be like that. Sure, before then he had fought with girls before. But he never thought about it like this. Did it count as domestic violence? Did it count as actually hitting them? As Hinata got in close, Naruto decided to ask later and fight a different way. Hinata swung a gentle fist at Naruto's face, who ducked down quickly. As he dodged her attack, SH raised his hand up and poked her side, tickling her. Hinata, at first, tensed up because she thought she was going to be punched. Then, something tickled her side and she felt confused at first. Then, she fell on Naruto because the tickling didn't stop. As Hinata looked to see why she was being tickled, she saw Naruto tickling her sides. Instantly laughing, she tried to shove him away playfully, only to be switched to lying on the ground under him and being pinned as he tickled her. As he tickled her, he realized he felt weird being on top of her. He stopped tickling her and stayed on top of her, blushing slightly. Hinata saw him blushing and suddenly realized what was going on. A deep red blush spread across her face and she froze. This had always been a fantasy of hers, being pinned under Naruto. Though she wished it had happened in a more private location and with more of a romantic feel. Naruto quickly got off of her, which did ease the tension, but seemed to make her sad. She sat up and the two were quiet for a moment. "Why didn't you attack?" Hinata asked. "I didn't know if it would have been okay. I mean, I have sparred with you before, but we were never engaged at the time. I don't want to be an abusive husband to any of my wives. I wasn't sure if it would be counted as abusive or not." "Oh, I understand, but we are ninja, we have to fight to keep out skills honed, don't you agree?" "Yeah, I guess it seems silly now." "Not really, I'm happy you thought of it, it makes me feel more safe around you than ever, though I never thought you were capable of being abusive anyway. You are too nice to be like that." "Thanks." Some time went on as the two sat in complete silence, not knowing what to say next. Hinata herself had wanted to ask him something all day and decided now was the perfect time. She sat there for a moment, trying to build the courage to ask, yet she was afraid of the answer. As the silence went on, she finally got the courage up. "Naruto, why did you never?" she started, finding what she wanted to say more and more difficult. She took a deep breath and decided to say it quickly to get it over with. "Why did you never talk to me about my love confession after pain invaded?" Naruto looked shocked at first. To tell the truth, it was all such a rush at the moment, he had forgotten about it. A lot of things had happened around then. He had gotten the fox under control, beat his toughest opponent at the time, and found out who his father was. In truth, he now felt anger with himself over forgetting about it. It didn't seem like something that should have been forgotten and felt bad that he had made Hinata wait so long for an answer. "Hinata, I forgot all about it, a lot happened around that time and I really wish I had remembered you were the first person to ever really say you love me. I'm sorry I never remembered it was really important to you and I feel like I can never really make it up to you." "Naruto, in truth you already have, we are going to be married soon." "Well, it won't be a usual marriage, it will still be us being married and this day has just been really good so far, I never thought I would actually be going out with you." "Hinata. It's okay, can we just keep having a good day?" "Yeah. But the wives." Temari, Ino, Karen and Hanabi had walked around the village and managed to gather Ren and Samui. The 6 of them sat inside the dango shop and all started to get to know each other. Ren was quiet out of nervousness and Samui was quiet because she felt she didn't need to talk unless it was of importance. "Now that we are all here, we can finally get to know each other. I wish Kuretsuchi could have been here with us, but no such luck," Ino said, starting the conversation. "She won't be here until she has to be. I hope this doesn't offend anyone, but people from that village don't really like the Leaf Village. They never have. I expect a lot of difficulty in this marriage because of Kuretsuchi," Samui said as she began eating. "Also, why is there a child here? Don't tell me she is in this, too." Temari was about to answer, but Hanabi raised her hand up. Everyone looked at her. "I will answer this. My father wanted me in this because unless I was part of this marriage, I would have to receive a clan seal that would make me lower class in the clan's eyes. My father didn't want that kind of life for me, so he included me in the political marriage contract. I know I may seem to have the body of a child, but I have been trained to the point where I am already a chunin." Hanabi said, seeming to surprise Ren, yet Samui was left unmoved by her words. "There are things involved in marriage, Miss Mature Girl, that I don't think you are ready for. Do you even know what sex is?" Have you even had your first period yet? I doubt you have started shaving yet, and I really doubt you understand the things involved in this marriage. Samui argued. Though her words seemed harsh, her tone was calm and almost protective. To answer all of your questions and remind me if I miss any of them, I do know what sex is and how to have sex. I have had my first period and second one by the way, I don't have to shave as I'm not old and I understand a lot of the rules in this marriage. I know of some probably no one else really knows about. For instance, did anybody realize that after 1 year, we will be expected to bear a child? Karen, Ino, and Ren instantly looked at Hanabi with a look of surprise. Temari and Samui both knew of this, and Samui waited for Hanabi to list off some of the other rules to show her true knowledge of the subjects. Also, does anybody know, saying we are technically saving 2 clans here, some of us will be taking the Namikaze name, and some will be taking the Uzumaki name. I see you do have some knowledge about this. I'm impressed, Hanabi. I do plan on leaving you alone at this point, but you are still young. I will show you respect, but be aware I will be watching over you. Samui stated. Do what you want, but I will act as though you are not. Hanabi said. The two of them looked at each other for a moment and seemed to reach an unspoken understanding, both nodding to each other. Wait, you mean within a year of our marriage, we are expected to be baby makers? Ino said. Is that a problem? I thought you said you were willing to give Naruto a lot of children. Karen mentioned. Ino quickly glared at Karen. It's not a problem, I would just rather choose the time, rather than be told when to have kids. Oh, bis. Just be happy you are included with this. Why, you? Ladies. Fighting isn't necessary. Samui butted in. They do this for fun. It's not healthy, but they are as close as sisters. Temari said as she ate. I see, Samui whispered, looking at the two as they started to argue again. Do you think Kuritsuchi is really going to be a problem? Ren asked. I do. She will probably insist that she won't be touched by Naruto until the absolute last moment she can avoid it. I respect Naruto, as he is very powerful. I know he is caring, because he went out of his way to save me from Madara. I was trapped in a sealed jar for days, yet he saved me and even carried me back to my village. Even though my team beat him mercilessly, he still forgave them. That's how I know he is caring, and that is how I know I can fall in love with him eventually. Samui explained. He saved me from a wave of white zetsus and a few revived people from some jutsu that brought people back to life. I could have been killed if he didn't find me alive and bring me back to Med Ninja. I owe my life to him and I figured giving myself to him was the best way. Ren stated. He saved my family from destroying itself, Temari said. He brought me back to this village and really saved my life by giving me a real life. I used to follow a madman and never realized it was a problem until I actually got here. I could have only done worse, Karen included. He never saved my life, he has just always been nice to me, no matter how rotten I was to him. I like his tenacity and know he is a great man, Ino stated. He never saved my life either. All I can say is that he unintentionally gave me my first date. I envy you all for having such good reasons for liking him, Hanabi said. My sister has always loved him, though. Since she was young, she seemed to only have eyes for him. I'm really happy that she actually has him now. She has? Temari asked. I feel really bad for taking his virginity then. Everyone instantly looked at Temari with wide eyes. Some of them seemed to show anger, mainly Karen and Ino, and the others showed curiosity. Temari didn't feel awkward from the stares, though she really did feel bad about stealing Naruto away from Hinata. Just so we know what we are dealing with, how big was he? Hanabi asked. Others looked quickly at Hanabi with a look of terror and looked at Temari. Temari herself didn't seem to care. Hanabi asked. I would say 8 inches. 8.5. I'm bad with this, so you will just have to wait to see for yourself. Was he good? Karen asked. Not really, but he was inexperienced. I was too, of course, but that will all change as time goes on. The others seemed to be digesting the information. Samui herself was smirking slightly, almost perversely. Ren was blushing, yet seemed to be thinking intently about it. Karen and Ino seemed to share the same lusty look on their faces, staring into space. Hanabi looked like she was trying to solve a math equation more than thinking about Naruto, but then again, maybe she didn't blush easily. Our little Hanabi here will have to grow some more before she is ready for that. Samui said, smirking. Hanabi looked at her like it was a sort of challenge. I'm not worried. I know big sister Samui will be there to hold my hand if I need her. Hanabi said, seeming to throw a raunchy tone in it, making the others cringe a little. Samui looked at Hanabi with an unwavering look. For someone so young, that was a good joke, Samui said, and smiled. She understood the humor and wasn't willing to take as the jab it almost seemed to be. Samui saw the others look in a slight amount of horror and started to laugh, causing the rest of them to start to laugh. The women sat and continued to talk the rest of the day. Later, at Naruto's apartment. Hinata walked out of Naruto's bathroom. After the long day of walking around the village, she felt disgusting and had needed a shower to wash off. Naruto had kept his promise and the both of them had a fun day, walking around the village together. They had went to shops together and shopped a lot. "Hey Hinata," Naruto said as he saw her leave the bathroom. Naruto instantly froze up. Hinata was wrapped in only a towel, with her hair dripping wet. A blush was spread across his face and she already had a blush across her face. I forgot my clothes bag out here. "I'm sorry," Hinata said quickly, moving to the bed to grab the bag. As she reached for it, her towel loosened and fell from her. Hinata had enough time to eat as Naruto tried to grab the towel as it fell. "So what is your plan for tomorrow?" Hinata asked. "Your dad wants to talk to me. I figure he wants me to take Hanabi out to get to know her. Please don't do what we just did with her tomorrow." "Don't worry. I won't." Chapter end. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Peace out.